Peppercorns are one of the world's most popular spices, and they're grown across all of the world's spice regions, from India to Indonesia to Ecuador and Brazil. In this video, I'll be giving you a guide on the different types of peppercorns and their uses, how to buy them and store them. Salt may be the most popular ingredient, but pepper comes in at second, and it's definitely the most popular spice. Let's dive in. So I've already done a complete guide on salt, which is the most popular ingredient and a foundational ingredient that chefs need to master. Go check out that video if you have some time. But whereas salt is used to enhance flavors in whatever it is that you're trying to cook and really bring them forward, pepper alters them by adding spice and different types of notes to your flavor. In every American kitchen, or really any kitchen in the world, you're going to find salt and pepper. Black pepper is by far the most popular peppercorn. But did you know there's different variations? There's also different colors of pepper. So let's go back a bit. How is pepper grown? You may not be aware of this, but black and white peppercorns are actually from the same plant. And the peppercorns are actually berries. It's only in the way that they're harvested and processed that divides them. Peppercorns are fruit, just like grapes, and soil, growing conditions, and the different various types of peppercorn are all going to have an impact on flavor profiles. Black peppercorns, white peppercorns, and green peppercorns. So let's take a close-up look at them. And you're going to notice, for example, with white peppercorns, they're smoother and smaller, while black peppercorns actually have a super wrinkly outside. That's because black peppers are dried as soon as they're picked, which gives them that darker, crinkly appearance. And white ones, well, white peppercorns are soaked first before the drying stage, so the outer layer comes off. And I find that the flavor is a little bit more subtle and less harsh, but we'll talk about flavor in a bit. So when you go to buy some white peppercorns, look for the ones that are creamy white. You don't want the ones that are bright white. They may have added chemicals to them, giving them that bleached appearance. Or you can also buy beige peppercorns. So let's talk flavors, because when it comes to taste, each one absolutely has a different taste. Black peppercorns, which are the most popular, are picked before the berries just ripe. They therefore have the strongest flavor out of all the peppercorns. Slightly hot with a tiny bit of sweetness, depending on which black peppercorn you actually get. And yeah, there are several different ones. White peppercorns are a lot less strong and pungent than black peppercorns. But if you're using ground white peppercorns, they do taste much, much hotter. If you're going to be using white peppercorns in your recipes, ground white peppercorns, less is more. White peppercorns are also a favorite with white sauces or baking because it blends in visually if that's what you're going for. Green peppercorns are picked when they are underripe and then freeze dried. They sort of have this fresh flavor and are normally picked and then brined. Green peppercorns are typically available in cans or jars and are commonly mistaken for capers. But capers are unripe flower buds of the caper bush, and peppercorns are berries. I'm not too crazy about green peppers, so you won't see it here on my board today, but it is something that is worth trying at least once. So if you can, get yourself some green peppercorns and decide for yourself if you like them. Now, the most common by far is black peppercorns. There are actually many different types of black peppercorns, but the two most popular variants are the telecherries and the Malabar peppercorns. Some brands will also make several different variations of black peppercorns in one container to give their own little mix or flavor profile. I don't suggest you do that. I suggest that you buy individual black peppercorns because they're very different from one another, and you may like one more than the other or use them uniquely. So here are some of my favorite peppercorns, starting off with lampong, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's either lampong or lampong. Its origins are from Indonesia. It gives a slow burn that evolves into a more intense fire or heat. You may even note some strong citrusy aromas. Other smells that you may also notice could be like a woodsy smell or pine notes. This peppercorn is great for adding a crust of pepper on beef, like a steak, or I personally love it when adding a crust to ahi tuna. The next two we've already kind of touched up on, but let's dive a little deeper. First being the Malabar, which is probably going to be the most popular peppercorn black pepper that you're going to find at like supermarkets. Its origins are from India. Malabar peppercorns hail from the same growing region as telecherries, but they aren't as tightly controlled. Like the telecherries, you'll notice complex but balanced aromas with accents of citrus, resin, berries. Though it doesn't share the same intensity as telecherries or the sweetness, it's still very satisfying. Instead, it has this mildly dark but slightly bitter flavor. Another great all-purpose pepper with warm spice notes for more dark savory dishes like braises. I typically use the Malabar pepper during cooking while I'm cooking something. Like if I know I'm going to be seasoning a steak and then cooking it, I'll pre-season it with this peppercorn. Now let's talk about the holy grail of peppercorns and my personal all-time favorite, which is the telecherry. Its origins are again from India. Some challenge the notion of what actually makes a telecherry peppercorn a telecherry, and you'll find two arguments. The first argument is it has to come from Telecherry, a city on the Malabar coast of Kerala, I think I'm saying that right, in India. And they stress that the only characteristic is it must come from that city. But the second argument is that the only characteristic that really truly matters is the size of the peppercorn. But let's face it, it's probably going to be more valuable if it actually comes from the region that it originates from. Telecherries are considered the finest peppercorn in the world, and one of the few names in peppers that people are familiar with. You can expect an especially sweet taste compared to other peppers, and the aroma is kind of a fruity to grassy or even citrusy and piney smell. The best way I can describe it is it's bright with a freshness. The sweet balanced flavors and the complex aromas make it a great standalone pepper. I prefer to use telecherries as my finishing pepper. So how should you buy and use pepper? With black and white pepper, you can buy it either whole, cracked, either coarsely or fine grounded. But it's always better to buy it whole. Whole peppercorns rather than pre-ground peppers. See, once it's ground, pepper quickly loses its fragrance and flavor. Fine ground pepper is much more intense because it will saturate on your tongue and the taste buds. I prefer to use fine ground pepper when baking, for example. Coarse pepper is much milder in intensity, but also will allow you to find those hidden notes and the aromas. I prefer coarse ground pepper to season my meats and steak and as a finishing pepper. Somewhere in the middle, medium coarse ground or medium ground peppers, I prefer to use for sauces and stews. One more thing to keep in mind, cooking or toasting pepper also has a significant impact on flavor. If you want to try an experiment at home, taste your pepper, and then go ahead and roast some peppercorns, whole peppercorns, in a pan without oil dry for a couple of minutes. Crack them and taste them again. It's going to be a completely different flavor. Also, when taste testing pepper, don't just throw it in your mouth. Don't do what I'm doing. I've already tasted all these. I know exactly how they taste like, so I'm just shooting a video for YouTube. But at home, if you really want to distinguish between each character, each flavor profile, cook up some white rice. Don't season the rice in any way, not even salt. And then grab yourself a little bit of rice and sprinkle on the pepper that you want to try for each bowl of rice. And give it a taste test like that, because it kind of lowers the intensity a bit and actually allows you to taste the flavor instead of just chucking it in your mouth and then getting spices and burning, and it's no fun. Let's go back to cooking or roasting pepper for a second. I'll give you guys an example. Some folks like to season their steaks with pepper before cooking it either in a pan or on a barbecue grill or whatever. because it toasts the pepper or burns the pepper, and some people like that flavor on their steak for a more mild flavor, but also this like nutty, earthy flavor. Others prefer to finish their steaks with pepper to get that raw profile, the raw effects of a peppercorn. I actually prefer both. Sometimes I'll cook my steaks with the pepper already on it. Sometimes I'll finish with pepper at the end, or sometimes I'll do both. Like I kind of said earlier, I'll cook with Malabar peppers and then I'll finish with the telecherry peppers because the telecherry just really has some great profile. So how should you store peppercorns? Dry whole peppercorns last longer than ground peppers. We've already kind of established that. Keep them in a nice, cool, dark place in your pantry and use them up within a year if they're whole. As for ground peppers, you're going to get the most flavor out of them if you use them within the first few months. I hope you found this video informative and entertaining. And if you did, please consider subscribing and joining our channel membership so we can continue making videos just like this one. Let me know in the comments below. What's your favorite peppercorn? Is there a way that you like to use it? And also, don't forget to suggest the next video. Take care, everybody.